Hello folks, welcome to the series named The Placement Guide, where we help students to know about the hiring processes of their dream companies and different career opportunities. Today, we have a very special guest amongst us whose name is Anuprava Chatterjee. He had earlier done a couple of internships in Unicorn India, Windrose Capital, Equirus Capital, and Grad Capital. He has also done research internships at INSEAD and Slovak University of Technology and has also cleared CFA Level 1. He is also a co-founder of AlphaX Consulting and a B2B startup eSaathi and will be joining investment banking team at DC Advisory. He has recently graduated from IIT Kharagpur in 2022. I must say that your profile is really amazing. Thank you so much, Anuprava, for accepting our invitation and coming up to the show.
Hi, Madhur. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to share my journey and in the process help other aspirants into venturing into the field of investment banking and private markets. Yeah.
So before we start, do like and share this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe the channel for more such videos. Let's deep dive into your journey, Anuprava. Could you walk us through your journey? Like, how did you develop interest in investment banking and private market space?
Sure. So the moment I came to IIT KGP, I was actually interested in three things. It was deep technology, entrepreneurship, and finance. So I followed a very scientific process in understanding what really fascinates me. And I did internships in all of these things. And I started narrowing down to the fields that I love the most through my internships. So I'll give an example that I did my deep tech research internship at Slovak University of Technology. And as I was interning in there, I tried to gauge what that internship made me feel about that field and whether I really understood and loved the field as a whole and whether I would want to make a career in the same. So that's how I tried narrowing down. And I did an internship in finance in VC so that I can get a taste of both finance and entrepreneurship through the same internship. And that's when I realized that the entire finance market, it can be designated into three structures. It can be the private markets, the public markets, and advisory of those markets. So I did an internship in all those three, each of them. And then I tried deducing about the field which interests me the most. And that's how I came to the conclusion that investment banking and private market advisory and investing is what really interests me. And I would want to make a full-time career in the same.
Yeah, that's a really nice way to find out our true passion by doing internships in each of the interested fields and then actually deducting which one is the exact one in which one wants to build one's career.
Yeah.
So can you tell about your each internship experiences? Like how did you apply it, the type of questions asked in the interview process, and also the work role? So let's start with Unicorn India internship.
Sure. So the Unicorn India Ventures is an early stage investing firm. So it was perhaps the best internship I had in early stage investing. It was also my first internship. So as I said, I wanted to develop and explore finance and entrepreneurship together. That's why I opted for an early stage investing internship. And so during the internship, I analyzed pitch decks. I went to hear entrepreneurs pitching their startups, do market size calculations, making brief reports on those sectors, as well as in understanding what really makes that startup tick. So that's how my internship went. I got a tremendously good set of mentors in Unicorn India Ventures. They were Amit Jain and Sparsh Kumar. Both of them, and Sparsh was actually my college senior. So I had a really great time in understanding both the facets of the table, both in the both from the entrepreneur's point of view as well as from an investor's point of view. So yeah, that was how my Unicorn India Ventures internship went. Um, the application process was actually I was applying and writing emails to the managing directors of lots of early stage investing funds. So at the second year or when you're in your third year, at that point, what really matters for the MDs is not your hard skills, since they know that your hard skills aren't really that developed. And also early stage investing isn't really a game of understanding the intricate details of finance. So what really matters then is your understanding of the startup ecosystem, how much you are in sync with what is happening in the markets, and how passionate you are about these startups. So I tried to explain that in my cover letters, and also I tried to build my CV in a way that helped portray the fact that I am a numbers guy. I know how to analyze businesses. I have done case studies, and that I am strong with analyzing things. So the moment I explained this through my resume and in the cover letter, I connected the dots by how these skills would help the fund. So that's how my internship application was. And yeah, I was lucky to be elected. Yeah.
Yeah, first internship is always really very special one.
Mm-hmm.
And doing an internship related to VC role, where one learns both the startups and the finance sides are always a special one. And you
Yeah.
applied a very structured process to connect with them and got the internship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So can you tell about your Windrose Capital internship?
Sure. So as I said that I followed a very scientific process of understanding what my true passion is. So after the internship, after this Unicorn India Ventures internship, I realized that private markets is what really fascinates me. Now, in private markets, there are three things again. The first one can be private market advisory, which happens in investment banking. The second one is early stage investing, and the third one is growth stage investing. I mean the investing in which we invest in startups where when they are in their growth stage or in their maturity stage. So I tried to do three internships. The first one is in early stage investing, the second is in growth stage investing, and the third would be in investment banking, so that I get a taste of all of them. So the Windrose Capital was one in the early stage investing space. It was again a very memorable internship since it happened at the time of COVID, and the Windrose team very amicably helped me set up and in building my thesis on machine learning, deep tech, AI-driven designing, to explaining what I feel about those fields and to do a proper sector research reports on those. I also worked in a SaaS-based company and a health tech company to understand the various things about that startup, and also in helping that startup fundraise by discussing a few of the key elements or the key levers that are that are stopping their growth. So that's what I did in Windrose Capital. Also, apart from that, I helped in understanding the reinvestment strategy of Windrose Capital and to devise the first reinvestment strategy along with the managing partners. So basically, that is about, let's say Windrose Capital has invested in a company. Now, what are the fields that I should look at? What are the metrics that I should look at? And which of them are deal breakers and which of them are deal makers? And how can we actually devise whether we need to reinvest that into that startup in the next round? So that's what I worked on, and it was again an amazing experience.
Yeah, it seems really an interesting as well as very, very hands-on experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you tell about Equirus Group internship?
Sure. So as I said that I did three internships: early stage investing, growth stage investing, and investment banking, so that I understand which of them fascinates me the most. So Windrose Capital was for the early stage investing, and Equirus Capital was the investment banking internship. So that's where I understood that maybe advising clients and helping them in solving their financial issues is what really drives me, and I really enjoyed the work. So Equirus Capital is a leading mid-market boutique investment bank, which is based out of India. So I worked in performing financial statement analysis for secondary transactions in private markets. And I also did rigorous econometric and feasibility analysis of those businesses. So in all, I think that for any investment banking internship, being proactive is the most important part, since if you're not proactive, they would assume that you aren't really interested and you don't really have the hard skills to help them out. So to ask for work, to really impress them, to really help them in any way, I think that's what is the key to having a successful investment banking internship. So yeah, that was my experience. Yeah.
And how did you apply to them, and what was the shortlisting process?
For the Equirus Capital internship, so firstly, as I said that I wanted to do an investment banking internship. Now for the bulge brackets, most of those funds, most of those banks, they hire straight out of MBAs. So we undergraduates have no really chance on that. So I applied only through the boutique investment banks. Now I actually followed the LinkedIn pages of all of those boutique investment banks where I wanted to intern. And in the process, I came across a post where Equirus Capital was hiring for interns. So I had a connection in Equirus Capital with whom I was connected on LinkedIn, and we had a proper networking session before that. So I asked him that, okay, Equirus Capital is hiring for internship, so I would want to apply. And I sent my resume to him. And then I got a call from the HR that, okay, I'm shortlisted for the interview process. And I had around 3 rounds of interviews and along with the HR. And that's how I got the internship offer.
And can you tell something about the questions asked in those interviews, or in general questions asked by these companies?
Sure, sure. So for investment banking, the questions are slightly different for internships and the final placements. So I'll speak about the internships. So for Equirus Capital and or for any of the boutique investment banks, they really want to know whether you know financial statement analysis or not, since that is what would drive most of the work that you would do in an investment banking internship. And so the valuations and all of those stuff would mostly be done by the associates and the analysts who have been hired full time by those boutique investment banks. So they would see whether you know corporate finance, whether you know financial statement analysis, whether you are in tune with the market in which you are opting for investment banking. So let's say I intern in the TMT division. So in the TMT division, you would have to have a very good idea of the technology sector, the media sector, and the telecom sector. So you have to study about those industries and what are the recent trends, the government policies, the fiduciary policies, the challenges in those industries, so that you can help in building an investment memorandum very well along with the banks. So I think that's what most of the preparation is. Yeah.
And how did you prepare for topics like corporate finance, basics of valuation, and financial analysis?
Sure. So the time when I was applying for Equirus Capital, I was actually also studying for my CFA level 1. So in CFA level 1, you have all of those things, the financial statement analysis, the corporate finance, and also your some of the other stuff like equity, investment valuations. So all of those stuff really helped me in understanding and building a good base in these things. So I just brushed those concepts, and the interview questions are hardly a level above or below of the CFL1. It's almost similar to the CFL1. So if you're starting for CFL1, or if you even do the YouTube videos of CFA L1 preparation by various premier institutes, so I think that will really help you in building a strong foundation.
So preparing for CFA level 1 really helps you a lot in these interview processes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what does Grad Capital do, and how did you apply to them for the internship?
Sure. So I actually did not intern in Grad Capital. I joined them as an associate and later was promoted to senior associate. So Grad Capital is actually a 1 million student run venture capital fund to invest only in student entrepreneurs. So basically, they want to form the bridge between the student entrepreneurship ecosystem, since that part is hardly touched by the premium early stage investment funds. And also, it makes a good deal flow funnel for most of those tier one VC firms who want to tap into the student ecosystem, but they don't have the network or the right people to know that whether a good startup is coming on any of those colleges. So that's the space where Grad Capital exists, and it helps in scouting those startups and giving them the minimum investment to assist them in making a business plan, in improving their growth, in bringing in traction, and then they connect them to those tier one VCs so that they can raise a further round of investment. So that's what Grad Capital does. I joined as an associate, and my work was mostly in the operation side, in which I was also sourcing and dealing with the day-to-day operation of Grad Capital at the same time. So a major part of my work was sourcing good startups and in connecting with them so that we can understand what they're building, and if they seem strong enough, then we can really help them assist in the next round of fundraising, investing in them. So that's what my work in Grad Capital was. After I went to senior associate, there the work was mostly a bit higher, that I would take in the inputs from most of the associates and help them in collaboration, and also in the slightly day-to-day operating work, revolving around hosting college events and making these social media, making the website. So that's how, as you know, the Grad Capital is a very new investment fund. So it is also a startup in itself. So in startup, most of it is that everyone wears multiple hats or responsibilities. So my work wasn't really that different from that. Yeah.
And how was the shortlisting process by Grad Capital for both associate and senior associate roles?
Sure, sure. So for associate program, I actually came across Grad Capital on 1st January. So I was going through my LinkedIn feed and I found that, okay, Grad Capital is something, is someone which really is helping the student entrepreneurship ecosystem. Also at that time, I was running my own startup, eSaathi. So I really wanted to understand that how would I get funding of those student-run startups, since none of the top-tier VCs were really interested, since they wanted to reduce the risk of investing in a student founder. So that's why I was looking into investment funds that invest in student startups. So that's how I came across Grad Capital. So I just shot a message to the founder, and as I was applying, and I said that I wanted to have a talk and I wanted to join the team. So that's when I spoke to about 5 to 6 people in Grad Capital, and I had a candid conversation with everyone about what my expectations were, the role that I would fill up, the vision I have about the student ecosystem, and how would I assist Grad Capital in that vision. So that's how my interview process was. It was a very candid process. And yes, so all of them seemed really happy. And yeah, I joined the team.
Yeah, the initiative taken by the Grad Capital is really very nice one. A
Yeah,
lot of the top VCs doesn't want to take risk into by investing into the student entrepreneurs, and it was a
exactly.
big space which needs to be get disrupted, and
Yeah.
Grad Capital started a very nice initiative. So can you tell in Grad Capital, how did you identify different startups and what was the due diligence process related to that? Because most of the startups would be at a pre-revenue stage or even before the MVP stage. So how
Yeah.
did you shortlisted them?
Sure. I think the process isn't that different from how any early stage investment fund shortlist prospective startups. So I think at the early stages, since there aren't a lot of numbers, so our major focus isn't on the traction, but also on the team and the idea and the market behind that startup. So I think the number one thing would be the team, since at the pre-revenue stage or even at the very early stages, the business plan or the idea can change absolutely. I mean, the plan can directly pivot to a very different direction. So that's something which I've seen in a lot of even successful startups all across the world. So having conviction on the business plan on the market is important, but even more than that, having conviction on the team is important. So we really spoke with the team and understood the rationale and the motivation behind starting up, and that why they aren't taking the college placements, and why do they want to do their startups. So that's when we got a clarity that, okay, he is in for the game and he is in deep into the game. So that's when we understood that, okay, is it someone which can be a good prospective founder. And after that, we really look into the market, as well as do a sector research report, how the sector is moving, how do the competitors work out, the market sizing, the risks which are there about that startup, and how we can assist them in de-risking those aspects. And so these are some of the things that you look into the startups from any early stage investment fund. And we aren't really that different from them.
Yeah, completely agree. At the initial stage, it's mainly about the founding team and their conviction
Yeah.
and why they
Yeah.
are doing what they are doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how do you usually do the sectoral or the market analysis?
Sure, sure. So for the sector research, I would say that we have a specific few titles or sections, the different subsections in which we divide this sector research, and we find individually on those, and we compile a report and discuss it among the other people. So, like let's say if I'm looking into an industry, then for the sector research, I would first look into a brief overview of the world, how the industry is globally, the market size, the leading countries, and then we go on into India. Now, after we enter India, we understand what are the key levers of that industry. So by key levers, I mean that what are the factors that are make or break for that industry. So those factors, once they're identified, it helps in giving a much more clarity about how that industry shapes. Because now I can just look into those 4 to 5 key levers and understand how they are shaping, and those key levers would in effect shape the entire industry. So we identify those key levers by speaking to industry experts and reading the different industry reports of different other sector brokerage firms. So that's how we get the key levers. After those key levers, we understand that what are the opportunities in the sector, and what are the startups and competitors in those opportunities, and how has the growth of those opportunities been. And after we look into those opportunities, we then move into the challenges or the risks associated with that sector. So the moment we enter the risk part, we actually need to tread very carefully, since we everything might seem like a risk in this. So we speak with different industry experts, and we also study the different reports to understand that what are the factors that really hinder the growth of that industry. So we move into those risks and also write about what might be the possible solutions to those. Another important part might be that how is the future shaping of that industry? Like what are the latest trends of those industries, the different new technologies which are coming up in that sector. So after we do that trend analysis, we then move on into the uh, Estelle and the Porter's five force analysis, because that gives us an idea about how that industry is positioned from a political point of view, from an environmental point of view, from a social point of view, the technological point of view, and from a legal POV. So once we understand that, we get a much clearer picture about how that industry is moving. So we do a pestle analysis and also a Porter's five force, in which we understand the threat of suppliers, the threat of buyers, and all of those things. So, and finally, we move on into the conclusion based on all of this analysis that we do, that how investable is this industry? What are the opportunities or the subsectors that we should look into? And if you have $1 to $5 million to invest, then which are the key sectors in which you would invest it into? So that's how the sector research report works.
That's a really, really nice way to do the sectoral research. It will definitely going to help a lot of the students who are new into the sectoral research.
Yeah.
So can you tell me about your Alpha X Consulting initiative?
Sure, sure. So the thing about Alpha X Consulting is that it didn't really appear from anything that I have previously thought of. So it has been very, very latest. I mean, so as I was doing the startup valuation exercising for those startups, I understood that valuation exercising for big corporations is very common, but not for new age businesses. So you'll see that a lot of MNCs, they have valuation consultants, and that they help in understanding the true value of their business. So that kind of a facility isn't available for new age businesses as of now, in and also if available, it can only be afforded by a handful of startups that have great traction. So with the dual objective of honing my technical skills and helping new businesses get their right worth, I started a personal financial advisory firm called Alphax Consulting that does financial valuation modeling across 10 plus countries. So some of the projects that I worked on is a debt refinancing project, for a leading co-working space. We assisted another private equity fund in rationalizing a pipe investment in a blockchain trading firm. We also did DCF modeling exercises for several growth stage startups. I also briefly worked and interned with a team based out of Stanford University, in which we evaluated the different European tech startups who wanted to venture into the Southeast Asian markets as well as the United States market. So we helped them making their business plan, in fundraising, in assisting them in forming the growth strategies about how they would expand their business internationally. So it was overall a great business, and I got the money, I got the experience, and I also got a good network of people who were interested in the same things. Yeah.
Yeah, really, that was an amazing initiative. And it
Mhm.
would be a great way to connect with like-minded people to learn more and more skills.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you tell how do you do rough valuation for any startup?
So I think that is the million-dollar question for a lot of startups. Um, well, I would be honest. I don't think the startup valuation exercises right now is very scientific. I think it's more of an art than science, since the valuations, and especially for technology startups, the valuation depends on a lot of other non soft factors. I mean, by soft factors means the team, the market that you see, how much conviction has do the investors have on the startup founder, and what has been the experience of that startup founder. And also, apart from that, we also look into the revenue numbers. But for early stage investing, it really depends on what they want to use the money for and how much stake do they want to dilute for the same. Now, based on that, you'll get the amount or the investment funding amount that they really want, and also the stake that they want to dilute. And when you combine both of those two things, you'll get the startup valuation at that stage. This thing is slightly different for mature stage companies or even non-tech companies, since it follows a very hardcore valuation technique on the basis of their revenue numbers, their cash flow statements, and all of the financial things. So I think the valuation techniques are different for early stage investing and growth stage investing. And yeah, so that's how, based on which stage of the company we are in, we decide the valuations.
Can you tell about your research internship experiences and interviews
Hmm.
at INSEAD and Slovak University of Technology?
Sure, sure. So the Slovak University of Technology internship was actually the first and the only internship I had in deep tech, since I really wanted to explore the field, and everyone comes in IIT to understand that okay, coding is what really drives people. So I really wanted to see what coding is, and that how would I assist in the deep tech research, and whether research is something that I would want to pursue. So the Slovak University internship, it was more on predicting Alzheimer's disease early and in finding out iron cells in brains of those people. So we are finding out those iron cells, and if there are any image processing techniques to assist in understanding the concentration of those iron cells in the brain cells, if we can do that, then we can have a very good solution of predicting Alzheimer's much before it goes fatal. So that's what we did. I released three publications with my guide on the same from Springer Journal. And it was a mix of data analytics, machine learning, and image processing. Also, that was the first time I delved into machine learning. So that internship helped me realize that although I enjoyed doing the work, but I would most probably also be much more fascinated in having a 2000 feet view of the things than involved in the nitty gritties of innovation. So I think that's what uh, tilted the decision against pursuing research as a career option. But still, it was a great internship, and I'm still very good friends with my with the professor I was doing research with. And for the INSEAD internship, it was a mix of quantitative finance and venture capital research. So it was, so as I said that I wanted to understand the different fields within finance and really understand what fascinates me. So I wanted to delve into quantitative finance and see whether that assist me, or whether trading or working on option pricing or whether risk management is what really interests me. So I did an internship in quantitative finance. It was a mix of data analytics and financial analysis. And I'm sorry I can't give much more details about this internship, since I signed a confidentiality claim or the same. But it was mostly around the wrestling industry and understanding the different networks around wrestling industry and what are the key levers that drive the wrestling business as a whole. So that's what my experience was, and it was again a very pleasant experience. Yeah.
Yeah, really amazing experience to do such research internships and also publishing several journals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So can you tell how did you apply to DC advisory and what was the shortlisting process?
Sure, sure. So I would say that so DC Advisory, for the uninitiated, it's a multinational technology focused investment bank, which does M&A and private equity deals in the technology sector and both services and enterprise in India. So that's where I got into through college placements. I was very lucky that DC Advisory was um, s- came to the college placements for the first time this year, and it luckily came to IIT Kharagpur to hire. As you know that for most of the tech undergraduate colleges, front office investment banking is really something which doesn't appear in the placement list. Most of the roles are in mid market or back office roles in the bulge bracket banks, but front office investment banking isn't really which comes for the tech undergraduates. They really come to the MBA colleges to hire. So apart from this year, Grad Capital was the only investment bank which came to hire for investment banking roles in IIT Kharagpur. But this year, DC Advisory also came for the first time. So they had a written test in which they wanted us to write essays about my knowledge in finance and why investment banking, why DC Advisory, and any one particular market activity that fascinates me the most. So that was the essays. There were four essays. Then there was two quant problems that we needed to solve. And after that, there were a range of MCQs based on financial statement analysis and corporate finance. So it was a mix of quantitative aptitude essays. That means which test basically how well you write and how well you articulate your thoughts, and then again your finance knowledge. So based on that written test and your resume, there was a shortlist of 10 to 12 people. Around 900 people applied for this job. So there were a shortlist of 10 to 12 people, and I couldn't believe that I was shortlisted. And after that, we had three rounds of interviews. And based on those three rounds of interviews, they finally selected three people, but one of them chose upward. So there are two people from IT KGP who are joining DC Advisory.
Really amazing experience. Congratulations for getting shortlisted in it.
And thank you. Um, yeah.
How did you manage your studies as well, along with doing so many amazing internships?
I think that's what I regret the most. I did not focus on studies initially, and that really so in my second year, third year, I had very bad CGPAs. But after that, when I realized that for investment banking jobs, the competition is so fierce that they look into the the academic records also, and they would want an inch perfect academic record. But that's when it really hit me that I was neglecting the most important thing. I mean, even if you have such internships and such experience, if you do not pass the CGPA cutoff, there's no point in having such a great resume since you won't be even shortlisted. So that's when I started focusing on my studies and academics. And yeah, I hopefully managed to pull 4 9 pointers in my last semesters. So that really improved the graph of academics really well. And I am now, since I've graduated, I've landed a very safe CGPA above 8. So yeah, I am hopefully saved from the same, but I wouldn't say that you would uh, hamper academics for such pursuits. I mean, of course, focus on academics, but be very calculative and pragmatic. I mean, in IITs, And even in most of the premier colleges, we would be fooling ourselves if we say that we need to study 2 months, 3 months in a semester to get a good grade. I don't think that's true. I think a lot of the academics is mostly studying 1 week before the exam and being very honest about your preparation and doing very calculative strategies to assist and help the most important parts of those examinations. So I think if you give even 1 week to those examinations, your CGPA wouldn't be an issue. And apart from that, as I said, that I really wanted to figure out what I wanted to do in my career. So in fact, if you look into our IIT prep, I mean, if you look into the reasons why we studied in class 9, 10, 11, 12, it was a lot more different than why we studied in college. So, I mean, if you look into the IIT preparation, we really had a very single-minded thing that, okay, IIT is what we need to crack. But after we go to IIT, we realize that there isn't one particular purpose anymore. We need to understand and explore all the different fields and then come into the conclusion about what field really fascinates us. So I felt that that is a huge task. And so I did projects and internships in a very calculative manner so that I can narrow down on the field that really interests me the most. So I think my work was mostly driven by passion and finding my life's purpose.
Yeah, definitely. That's the one of the most important thing that one has to do,
Yeah.
like finding their true passion and what's their purpose is.
Yeah.
And apart from that, making a healthy balance between both CGPA as well as the extracurricular activities is also really tricky and important.
Exactly. Yeah.
So can you tell some resources which were helpful to you to develop different investment related skills?
Sure, sure. So the philosophy which I believe in the most is that I think that if I can insert as much of finance into my mind through all forms of media, I can really get into the psyche of the thing and really build that mindset subconsciously. I mean, if you look into the stories of actors, they used to lock them in hotel rooms and they used to really practice on going to that mental state where they are that character. So, in the similar manner, you have to be in an environment where being a finance character is something which you subconsciously become without you realizing. So for that, I did everything finance. I studied CFA L1. I studied the Ashwath Damodaran valuation course, which was amazing, and that really assisted in developing my financial skills a lot. I also read finance books like Warren Buffett and the Interpretation of Financial Statements. It's again an amazing book which really explains the financial statements in a very candid way and in a very simple way. After that, I watched finance movies and TV series like Margin Call, The Big Shots. I'm a huge fan of Aliens on Hotspot, on Hotstar. Yeah. So all of those things, I really wanted to understand that what goes into the mind of a top finance professional, and I really wanted to imbibe those values into me. So that's how I inserted as much of finance into myself as possible. I also read business newspapers like the Mint, Economic Times Daily, and I also read detailed fundraising and startup related articles in the leading news media like the Ken and Morning Context. So these are the two things which really assisted in developing a good business sense and about what is going on in the markets.
Yeah, completely agree. Using the power of subconscious mind to develop these skills is really essential. And
Yeah.
I also do very similar kind of things like reading a lot of finance articles. Then
Yeah.
Mint is also my favorite business newspaper.
Oh,
Then watching various movies and web series
yeah.
related to finance, like
Hmm.
doing everything related to the finance so that we can develop more and more skills and also develop better understanding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And similarly, the newsletters also like the Ken, Morningstar, and some others.
Yeah.
That's a really nice list of resources, and it would definitely help a lot of new students.
Hmm.
So can you tell about your entrepreneurship experience related to eSaathi?
Sure. Um, so for entrepreneurship, I was interested in that since during that time, it was within 2019 to 2021. During those years, I mean, as you know, the Indian startup ecosystem was absolutely booming, sky high valuations for pre-revenue startups, and I mean, everyone was leaving their jobs for entrepreneurship. So I was really intrigued about what goes on in behind an Indian startup and how does one work and how does a startup run, so that if I advise on startup fundraising after this, or if I advise on investment fundraising after this, then I would have a fair idea about what goes on into a business from the other side of the table. So that's why I entered entrepreneurship. So I started eSaathi, me and a couple of my batchmates, which was an assistive UI platform to improve technology penetration among poor Indians. We attracted seed funding. We won 6 competitions. We hired 4 to 5 people, but then eventually we had to close it due to acute problems in business strategy and metrics. So we ran it for, let's say, 1 year, 2 months, if I'm not wrong. Um, I felt after that experience that to improve your chances of building a successful company, having deep exposure into your chosen market and experience in operations is very, very important. And I realized that founders like Mark Zuckerberg are really exceptions and not the norms. The average age of a successful unicorn founder is 38, the last time I read. So it's not really something that I would want to delve in initially, since I don't have that operating experience, neither do I have that business sense to navigate through the hurdles of entrepreneurship. So I on a purely risk adjusted basis, I would say that being a successful investor or a successful investment banker is much easier and profitable than a successful founder on a similar scale. So I felt that, okay, maybe I should go into being a generalist for the first part of my career and then decide on whether I would want to start my own company or go into much niche fields in the later stages. If you read the book by David Epstein called Ranges, Ranges, so in that book, you'll see that he has had a very good conviction about why we should be generalists in the first part of our career and then be specialists in the later stages. So I think I'm following the same path. I would try to dabble into most of those sectors and all of the business from a generalist point of view in investment banking. And only after that, I'll see that whether which specific niche do I want to enter into. So I'm open to entrepreneurship after this, but right now it's not on my cards.
Yeah, that's an amazing way to pursue different things and structure them. First by being a journalist, and later on, after gaining understanding and experiences, then shifting it to the specific task.
Yeah.
And also to avoid FOMO, which is majorly present throughout at different places.
Yeah.
So any last message that you would like to give to all our viewers who wanted to get into the investment banking or private market space?
So I would say a lot of things. I mean, there are, of course, I mean, no number of advices would be large enough, since I have learned a lot of them. But some of the key things that I would say is that if you're a student, I encourage you to keep a blank slate and have a huge appetite for curiosity before starting your career. I mean, college is perhaps the best place to explore your interest and narrow down on what sticks with you. You don't have any responsibilities as of now. You're not married. You don't have kids to cater on. You also are financially independent. So you should utilize this freedom to the max. And I would say that, as I said, that what really worked for me is I have always kept a very scientific mindset while exploring. So do dabble with things, you work on projects, do internship, understand what your heart tells you about the work, and keep narrowing down till you find your zone. So I think that is very important. And also something which really intrigued me in my third year and fourth year is that we really always wanted to go into a field which pays you the most. I think that is something which is really imbibed in most of the young people in colleges, that we'll choose the job which pays us the most, we'll choose the field that pays us the most. And I think that you can make a absolute bonkers of money in almost every career there is, provided you're within the top 1% of that. I mean, so don't worry about what pays more and what pays less. Understand what your strengths are. You double down on those strengths, be authentic. And being authentic and doubling down on your strengths helps you being excellent in your job. And that automatically brings the huge amount of money that you want to make. So I would say that you can make a huge amount of money in almost every career option. So yeah, I would say these are some of the things that I would want them to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. To become successful in one's life, one needs to get into the top 1% in any particular field, and that can happen only in that field in which the person has true passion and interest, and he
Yeah,
goes full into that field by
exactly.
avoiding FOMO and other pressures to go into the most trending fields.
Yeah, exactly. So in my college, I was perhaps some of the only people who did every internship in investments or in the front office zone. If you look into most of the people, they had a stable safety net. They did internships in data analytics. They also had a decent profile in core. They had a good CG. They even did great PORs to help them assist in consulting jobs. So if you look into most of the people, they applied to 3 to 4 different fields in the college final placements. But for me, I applied only in the finance jobs, so which were mostly 4 5 banks. So I applied to only those 4 5 companies. So for the entire final placements, I applied only to 4 5 companies. So those 4 5 companies were the thing. Since I was dead sure that this is what I would want to do ahead, and I wouldn't want to go into a tier one company of another field since I wouldn't enjoy the work. So I am much more comfortable in working at a tier three brand company in my field than a tier one brand company in any other field. So since I was clear on that, so that really helped make me single minded and really focus all my balls in this single field. So yeah, hopefully it worked out.
Yeah, following the one's path of true interest is really very important, and one needs to have the right courage and conviction to do so, and not just following other people and applying 4 5 or every fields just to minimize the risk.
Exactly, exactly.
Thank you, Anuprava, for taking out time to share your experience. It would be really helpful for a lot of the students. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I hope people realize their true passion and really follow that with all their heart and give every ounce of what they have into it. And so I think if you need any other questions or any other queries that you have regarding my journey or any of the tips that you would want, or to everyone who is watching this, I would say that you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can just shoot me a DM and we can discuss it. Yeah.
Thank you.